Welcome back to the Done Deal show on the Football Terrace. We're talking Rodrygo to Arsenal and a potential €90 million bid. A done deal for Burnley, which I think has shocked a lot of people. We're talking about Kyle Walker leaving City and joining Burnley Football Club. Manchester United as well, yielding a ruthless axe to a lot of their star players. What do you all make of it? There's been backlash online. There's been congratulatory thoughts from others. We're delving into that, plus a deadline regarding the situation with Victor Gyokeres. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribing. Let's do this. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. It depends when you're watching this and where you are around the world. A few stories to talk about today. And I wanted to start with Manchester United because this story has really triggered a lot of people. Made some angry, it's made others celebratory. And I wanted to bring this story directly to my community here on the terrace to get your views and opinions. Now, Fabrizio Romano has stated that Marcus Rashford, Anthony, Garnacho, Malacia, and Jadon Sancho have all been informed by Manchester United have all informed Man United they wish to leave. Now, the way that's worded, some would say, oh my God, United are going to be shocked by this, or United had no idea. Man United are also actively trying to sell these players as well. Because United have delayed their return date until later in July to allow them to explore solutions further. Me personally, I think this is fantastic news. Yes, it would have been nice to have sold some of these players sooner, but we can't forget the context of the situation. They are all overpaid based on their ability. Whether you like hearing it or not, none of them would be earning this if they'd have joined other football clubs. None of them would be on the wages they are. Malacia and Garnacho's is not particularly high, but obviously Anthony, Rashford, Sancho, between them, you're looking at the better part of £1 million a week. So they're very difficult assets to sell because the levels are not up here. The consistency over the last 2 or 3 years isn't up here, but the wages these players want is surrounding that. Now, United, of course, alongside their agents, have been negotiating with clubs, and it appears closer and closer to deals, especially when it comes to Jadon Sancho. There's talk that Anthony's willing to take a pay cut as well. But Man United really need these players and their agents to go out and focus on finding a new club and being realistic about their next move in terms of who wants them and how much they're going to be paid. But I like the fact that so far Man United haven't yielded. Gone, okay, guys, come back to pre-season at the same time, and it's okay, guys, we'll let you go and we'll pay your wages and we'll make it a free loan deal. So we're costing out. We need to be ruthless. The only element of this that's frustrated me is the Rashford bit, actually. That there's a lot of United fans online, and there are many things to slam our owners over, to criticize our owners over. You may not be happy with the speed of execution this summer. You may not be happy with last season and the mistake of keeping Ten Hag. Let's not even get into the Glazers. We know all about them. But the way they're attacking, the way some Man United fans are attacking us, our own club, because we've taken the number 10 shirt away from Rashford, a player who told us he wants to leave, has publicly spoke about needing a new challenge on many occasions, who's publicly this summer stated, privately, but through the press and his agent has stated he wants to go to Barcelona. According to this report from Fabrizio, who said he wishes to leave, yet some fans are angry that his 10 shirt's been taken away. That makes no sense. If I go to my boss and I say, boss, look, I'm looking for a new job, I'm leaving, I'm not going to cry when a promotion gets taken away from me or a new project with a good bonus gets taken away from me. I told him I'm leaving. That's absolutely normal. But look, I like this news. I like they're not coming back to training straight away. I hope we can find a resolution. I'd have loved them gone by the 7th. That's not going to happen now. But we'll see how that one plays out. In other news I wanted to bring to you today is a number of reports in Spain, both across yesterday and today, are claiming that Arsenal are ready to pay somewhere in the region of 90 million euros for Rodrygo. And the Rodrygo deal is such an interesting one for me because I feel like Arsenal, that's around £77 million, by the way. I feel like Arsenal on a regular basis contact the British media, or they ensure that their intermediaries, the agents they work with closely, this is the story. It's all very much, oh, Arsenal like him, Arsenal are intrigued, they're going to wait, but they're looking at other deals. I don't think Arsenal want this to publicly be seen as their number one target if they can help it. The problem that they have is that the Spanish media, the European media, don't give a damn about what Arsenal want or how they want this to be kind of framed. And they're really in Spain and the continent pushing that Arsenal were, on the charm offensive. They are going to wait for an official approach until after the Club World Cup because that is what Madrid and the player want. And Arsenal don't want to do anything to upset that situation. Yes, Arsenal are talking to Madueke, and that story isn't going away. But I trust in what Ben Jacobs said yesterday, that this is very much a case of they're working on Madueke in case they can't get Rodrygo. Now, listen, if they bid for Madueke tomorrow and get a here we go, and that was their main target, and then they barely approach or don't make any move for Rodrygo, unless it's because the player has said he wants to stay or he doesn't want Arsenal, that would be a massive mistake because there is no... Listen, Madueke can take people on. He was actually quite good. I watched the second half of the Palmeiras game last night. Congratulations to Chelsea, by the way, for making the semis. But I thought he was quite good. And he's a good player. He'll create opportunities. He'll score some goals. And I know some people will look at the stats of Rodrygo. They'll look at the stats and they'll say, yeah, but look at the numbers. Look at his goal scoring record in recent times. Look at X, look at Y, look at Z. Rodrygo is a level above, in my personal opinion. So this is just me, gut feeling. I think Arsenal are getting their ducks in a row and negotiating with multiple other wide players. Madueke being one that's really public. I think Chelsea are the ones leaking that's going on because they want to show their fans they're going to be selling some players, maybe buying some more. But I think Berta is doing what he does. I think he's negotiating with Madueke, negotiating with Chelsea, whilst keeping the Rodrygo situation on ice. I think once Madrid are either out or win the Club World Cup, I think you will see a massive push. There may also then be another delay, though. And I think Arsenal fans have got to prepare themselves for this because that is when Rodrygo is going to go on holiday. He may think, look, actually, I want to get my situation resolved, then go on holiday and then return at some point 3 or 4 weeks later. That may be the course of action. But prepare yourself for a player that might go, do you know what? I actually want a week away in a secluded part of the world, no phone, just with my partner, my friends, family, whatever it may be. And I just want to relax and clear my mind before I make any decision. Because leaving Real Madrid is a massive decision because of who and what they are. But this story of Arsenal and Rodrygo has just consistently been bubbling away. I think £77 million or the 90 million euros quoted is an excellent price. It's only actually anywhere between 15 to 20 million less than what is quoted Chelsea would demand for Madueke. So from my perspective, it just doesn't make sense to go for Madueke if Rodrygo is even slightly available. I would take the risk of waiting. I know Arsenal fans want business done quickly, but I would wait and I'd move in. In terms of waiting, I did read another story today that I wanted to bring to you, and I'm just scrolling through here and finding it. And that is this. This is coming from a number of different sources, but all alluding to the same thing in the Europe and in the UK, that Mikel Arteta has set a deadline of less than 2 weeks for the club to agree a deal for Victor Gyokeres with RB Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko and Ollie Watkins' alternative options. And there are some contrary reports to this. I'm very, very aware that actually they're nowhere near still to an agreement with Leipzig. They're nowhere near to an agreement with with Sesko. There are other reports in Germany today, which we may touch on a live show later, that are stating that actually Leipzig are now starting to get a little bit panicky and a little bit worried that this deal might not happen. All of these things, stories, are stem to the same place for me. Arsenal are in a position of power here. Both players want to join them. Worst case scenario is they pay the asking price of the club they're negotiating with. Best case scenario is they get their desired number one target at a lower price than required. There is no news that either Šeško or Gyokeres right now are going to turn their head and go elsewhere. But of course, there's always a risk that that happens. But I think Arteta, if this story is true, is right to set a deadline, because the one thing you are going to want is to have these players available for preseason. The first week, maybe 2 weeks of preseason is a lot of running, a lot of fitness work. So it's not hugely essential that they're with your club from that point. However, as you start to move towards your preseason games, the implementation of any new tactics or new part, because most clubs will change elements of their system every year, it's going to be important. So it's going to be an interesting space to watch in the coming days. For me, it's been, some people find it boring, and I understand that. I found it an amazing saga to follow this summer. I really, really have. But maybe in the next couple of weeks, according to this story this morning, there may be a resolution. Now, speaking of resolutions, a bit of a shock move yesterday, really, in many people's eyes. And that saw Cole Palmer. Sorry, not Cole Palmer. Cole Walker. Cole Palmer, sorry, but Carl Walker joined Burnley in a move that I didn't personally expect to see. Just personally didn't expect it. Doesn't mean it's not a good move. Doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do or anything like that. But I just didn't personally expect to see it. Just didn't. But I think it's a really solid move from Burnley. He isn't the player that he used to be. And I'm not actually sure how Burnley play at the moment. That's because I know what they were doing under Vincent Kompany. But I think as long as they're not exploiting his legs in the sense of making him do a lot of long-range one-on-one defending, so where he's isolated on a halfway line with pacey players and he's got to track back a lot, they're sitting a little bit deeper, which you would expect Burnley to do. Even when playing more expansively, they still sat back more than a City or a Liverpool would. I think you actually are going to pick up a really good and experienced signing here. And I think sometimes when the likes of Burnley have come up, they maybe haven't invested in the right areas or the right experience to stay in the Premier League. And just for what it's worth, putting my 10 penneth in, I think this could be a really good deal for Burnley. The only way this goes wrong is if at 35 he has lost his desire. If at 35 he gets 3 or 4 games into the season and thinks, I just don't need this anymore. That's the only time that I see this potentially blowing up in the face of Burnley. But overall, really, really good deal. So congratulations to Walker, Burnley, and all parties involved with that. But as ever, look, your views, your opinions in our comment section are more important on these stories than anything I have got to say. Look forward to reading through them later. Please hit the like button before you go. But until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.